Hi, this is Unit 15 again, and in the last video we had a quick look at what we were going to cover. We looked at the criteria and we looked at an example of what might be required to attain a pass, a merit and distinction. In this video we're going to look at some of the content that's involved in this A1. So we're going to be looking at Web 2.0 technologies. We're going to be looking at product or service based, target audiences and requirements. So let's start with Web 2.0. So I'm not going to read the slides exactly, but Web 2.0 is not a specific technology. It's more about usage. The way we use the web is vastly different from Web 1.0. which tended to be very simple, static web pages. So you would read a document, maybe look at a couple of images. Web 2.0 is all about interactivity, about user-generated content, and some technologies have really assisted with that, such as JavaScript, HTML5. We have faster DOM models, so the document object model, which allows pages to be very efficient, and obviously we've got advances in home computing in terms of the speed of computers affect what interactivity we can have. And we also have asynchronous content, so that means that a website can connect to a database and query it and wait for information and then process that information. So that has to be done asynchronously. It can't be just done in a step-by-step fashion. It has to wait for information to return. So examples of Web 2.0 would be a wiki, so where users edit content, blogs, again, user-edited content, social networking, users interacting with each other, online applications, so that could be an online paint application, it could be anything. Podcasting, YouTube, sharing videos, so things like that. So they all allow some degree of interaction and user editable content. Okay, right then, so product and service based. So we've got different services, so like commerce, or downloadable services, or virtual learning environments and so on. So commerce would be your online shopping, so Amazon, eBay. The audience for that would obviously be your consumers, people buying products, and that allows you to, browse products online at your leisure, organize products and remember key searches and easily compare products and purchase them online, and so on. I'm not going to read all of this. It's available for you to read, but the general idea is that different services have different target audiences. So looking at the requirements of a website, what makes a website good? So it's been broken down into a few categories: user friendliness, consistent, navigationable, customizable and responsive. So let's have a look at user friendly. So when your visitor comes to your website, they should be able to use it, and that means they should be able to understand the layout of it, the design should make sense, they should be able to access the content they need. There's an example here of the Van Gogh Museum. Overall it's quite a good website, but there are places like where we have this white text over a face that's white, and that makes it difficult to read, so not the best design choice for that. Consistency of design, so companies need to have a consistent branding, but that also goes for the pages of your website. So having consistent colours, consistent typography, that's the fonts, consistent layout and positioning and style, consistency to images. It makes that website more recognizable, more unique. It has a brand, it has key design elements in place. So there's more information in that link about having consistency in approach. Navigation. So navigation is important because that allows users to access different places in your website. And we have different sort of ways of navigating now. One thing is to use breadcrumbs. So this shows where the user is within the site. So they might be in the home page, they might be inside a shop, they might be inside a section of the shop. They might be looking at coats, they might be looking at outdoor coats. And so this helps the user know where they are, and it also provides a convenient way of getting back to a previous page or a previous section. The hamburger icon, the 3 horizontal lines, often used for an application to indicate a slide in or pop out menu, especially on mobile. It's economical and saves a lot of space. Fat footers, so we have the NNC webpage with a footer at the bottom that is very large and contains a lot of useful links and information. It's a really efficient way of giving your users lots of links, but without it crowding the website. And a sidebar, I've not put an illustration of that in, but it's a menu that pops up from the side. Again, efficient use of space, making it easier for users to navigate. Customizable. So websites are not static anymore. Users can customize the look of their own website. They might have specific colors. This is Amazon. Amazon will show you recent products or give you suggestions based on your previous browsing history. So this level of customization makes websites and adverts more personal to you. Responsiveness is the ability of a website to adapt to different size devices and screens. So your website should work equally across all different devices of different sizes and ratio, and this will give the best user experience for the most people. Principles of web design. So, these are key things you need to be thinking about while you are reviewing your 2 websites. I'm not going to read the list, but I have made a slide on quite a few of them. So these are the key things you need to be thinking about while reviewing your website. So usability. So the site must be usable. If people can't navigate around your site, that's going to be an issue. And part of that is your site layout. Are things in easily found and accessible places? Does it make sense? And does that carry on from page to page so the user can get used to how to use the site? Whitespace is a common design tool. So it's about leaving space between elements to show that they are separate or connected. It's so the site appears uncluttered. It gives the user a chance to rest and to see important things. Having a site rammed and jam-packed with content doesn't help the user to see what you want them to see. So separating things with white space can really help a user understand their message. Accessibility. So I've included a screenshot of the BBC and some of their accessibility features, where you can actually change the colouring, the font size, and so on within the site. It provides those tools as well as a wealth of information about it. So obviously you need to provide as broad range of accessibility features as you can. The type of text and fonts you use in your website will have a big impact on usability and accessibility. But broadly speaking, there are two types of fonts that you would use. Use serif fonts or sans serif fonts. Sans means without, so the without the little serif embellishments on the letters, and it makes it easier to read, but it might have less character. Alignment. So a web designer can use alignment to make the page make more sense, to arrange things in different ways depending on the need of the user. And alignment may suggest links between objects that wouldn't be there otherwise. So media and objects, they're used as in addition to the website, e.g. videos and audio and so on. So you could have Flash or JavaScript and other things like that to provide entertainment and so on in your website. The way you position elements in your page is going to have a large effect on users interacting with it. You might want to have something that's important in a key position and then something less important out of the way. And again, colour is really important, not only for readability but just general appeal. As a general rule of thumb, you don't want to use many colours, maybe 4 maximum, and that might include a couple of shades of the same colour. Adobe Colour is a great tool to use online to generate a colour palette for your website. So yeah, colour is really, really important, and even a black and white website can be very appealing if it's done well. I've included a link to a contrast checker where you can actually check your foreground and background colours and legibility of text. But the contrast is probably more important than colour. We notice contrast more initially when you first see something. Contrast is a lot more prominent than colour is. So being able to see things clearly on your page as a design is really important. When you're designing a website, you want to think about other things, not just the obvious things, but thinking outside the box a little bit. So we've got some ideas here, some really creative websites. I'd take a look at Parallax.js. You don't get many websites that look and interact like this one. And I've put a couple of others on there as well. But websites don't have to conform to the same old stereotype of what a website should look like. They can be new, innovative, dynamic, show that your company is different. A little bit of maths then. So for thousands of years we've been using the golden ratio. So if you take a line and you split it into 2 parts, then the ratio between the large part and the small part should be 1.618, so on. And weirdly enough, if you take the ratio of the whole line to the bigger part, that's the same ratio. It's best to just have a little play with that to get the idea. If you look at this National Geographic website, what that means in practice is if you take a rectangle and split it down into these 2 parts, you get another rectangle that's exactly golden ratio as well. And then you can split that into another golden ratio rectangle and so on infinitely. But the general design here, you can see the picture aligns with the golden ratio. And sometimes this happens purely by accident, or sometimes it happens by design, like the Google logo has elements of golden ratio all over it. So that's something to bear in mind, and you might want to include that in your assignment. Once you've designed your website, the next thing is getting people to see it, and this can be expensive, advertising it, but also getting it noticed by large search engines and getting it higher on the list. To do this, we can optimize it for a search engine, and we do this through indexing and so on. So indexing is using meta tags with keywords in them, and what will happen is the web crawler from the search engine will visit websites and look at the metadata, and it will record some of these keywords in its database, and it will look at how often the site's been updated and so on. And when a user searches using keywords, then that website might show up. So it's important for a company to know what words specifically do people use to search with. They don't just guess what words, they actually look a whole list of associated words that people might use and try and create as accurate description of their site that matches their customer as they can. The other thing is you need to update your page, because the web spiders will keep track of how often you update, and the more you update, the more favourably Google or the other search engines will view that. So I know there's a lot there. Some of it you will have seen before, some of it's common sense. These are things to think about while you are reviewing your two websites. So what I'd like you to do now is think about two websites you could compare. Pick websites that have the same sort of industry, the same function, like commerce websites or something like that. Pick two websites that offer similar services. Then you can make a more meaningful comparison between them. Pick websites that have enough content and depth for you to cover a lot of the things I've discussed in this PowerPoint presentation. Don't just write, oh, this is a great website, it's nice and colourful and it looks amazing and I like it a lot and I use it every day. That's not what I'm after. So think about the criteria, think about what we've covered, think about how you can look at that website with a critical eye, looking at proportions, looking at typography, looking at usability and accessibility. Think about all those things and make meaningful comparisons. You're evaluating and analysing the websites against that criteria. Okay, so I recommend you get started. See you later.